There is a place inside you that is quiet and still. A pure, inner, serene state that is alert and dynamic. It is the source of your thinking. And yet there are no thoughts. And it is the source of your creative power. It is a virtually unlimited reservoir of energy and potential. It is a field of bliss, and contact with it is blissful. It is your baseline. It is your true nature. It is your essence. It is you, minus the thoughts. This state of consciousness has many names: spirit, samadhi, pure awareness, the unified field, transcendental consciousness, the self. I simply call it being, a state of being. Because at our core, we're all human beings. As a meditation teacher, I show people how to recognize this state, to remember who they are at their essence, to stop identifying with the thoughts in their head, and to come back to the source of those thoughts, to tap into their full potential, creative, mental, energetic. And ultimately, this is the purpose of meditation. Meditation brings you back to yourself. You step beyond the body, you step beyond the mind, and you ground yourself in that inner, stable baseline. But why do this? What's actually the benefit of sitting around with your eyes closed for 20 minutes twice a day? Meditation is not about having some groovy out-of-body experience that feels great for a bit, and then you're back into your life and it fades. We don't meditate to be great meditators. We meditate to be better at thinking and better at doing. So, 28 years ago, I was a doer. I was a runner. I was a swimmer. I was a workaholic. I was fit, but I wasn't very healthy. I was sleeping, but I always felt tired. I was getting a lot done, but I didn't feel confident. I was living in Sydney. I was setting up the Australasian division of a global publishing company. And we went from one person, which was me, to 90 people in less than 12 months. And given the demands of that growth, you know, the idea of sitting around with my eyes closed for 20 minutes, it didn't make sense to me. And yet, a very successful and high-performing mentor of mine told me about what meditation was doing for him, how much of a difference it was making. And then I found myself at a talk, and I heard about the benefits, and I heard about the scientific research. And I heard about how easy it was to do. And I didn't see myself as a likely candidate for meditation. And yet, there was some impulse of charm that I could not ignore. And unlike all of my thinking at that time, pretty much, the vast majority of my thinking, I didn't overanalyze it and I didn't second guess it. And before I knew it, I was on a meditation course. And straight away, I was meditating every day. And I didn't think too much about it. I just found myself getting on with it. I really looked forward to doing it. I really enjoyed doing it. I was kind of amazed that I could do it. I really liked how it made me feel afterwards. I loved not always feeling tired anymore, and I was way more smiley. So I kept on meditating. Twice a day, every day, and I moved with work, and I moved from Sydney, and then I went to Paris for a few years, and then I was in Malmo in Sweden, and then I moved to London to take up a global CEO position. And then the storm clouds of aversion got bigger and bigger. I was not enjoying corporate life. I wanted to get off that hamster wheel, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I only knew what I didn't want to do. So I stopped doing it. And having resigned the big job, I then did that classic thing that Kiwis do, and I put a backpack on my back, and I went traveling the world. And I remember sitting on a beach in Mexico, and I had this cognition: I'm going to teach meditation. I did not know the how, I did not know the when, I only knew the what, and it was an unambiguous signal. And 2 years later, I was a teacher of Vedic meditation. This was a huge leap in my personal narrative. It was like a major right turn on the road. It was a big decision. And in my consulting work today, people often ask me how to make big decisions. They know they need to initiate major change, but they don't know how to go about it. They don't know how to find the right path. And we all want to know that. So there's some classic advice out there. Follow your gut. Honor your passion. Listen to your heart. And when Steve Jobs said, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition, he was on the right track. But for most people, it's not a question of courage. It's a question of capability. Can you hear that inner voice? Listen to your heart. Can you hear it? And for most people, it's too noisy up here. Too many thoughts. You have to turn down the signal to noise ratio to detect what is actually charming. And this is what meditation does. It turns down the volume so you can hear. So here's how it works. Stress and overload create excitation biochemistry in the nervous system. Cortisol, norepinephrine, and these are neurohormones, and they rev the system up. They speed up aging, and they throw you off balance, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Vedic meditation does the opposite. It de-excites the mind. So when I sit down to meditate, within minutes, the nervous system is experiencing unprecedented rest, much deeper than sleep. And the biochemistry of the body switches to a cocktail of blissful neurohormones, anandamide, dopamine, serotonin. And the brain functioning changes to a coherent and synchronous signature that's associated with peak moments of insight and creativity. So, in this calm, balanced state, you can detect what feels right. You're more perceptive, and you're less likely to miss those cues and opportunities around you. And for all of us, our best, most impactful and meaningful decisions didn't come when we're trying to work it all out in our head. Good decisions came when you followed a feeling. You followed the charm, and you were able to do so fearlessly and enthusiastically. And when I work with meditators, it's easier because their ability to detect what's actually charming, what's truly charming, is greater. It's more reliable. And then the process is pretty simple. Do what is charming, don't do what is not. Do what feels right and don't do what doesn't. Move towards that which is smooth and avoid what is rough. Nature is seeding you with these pockets of charm all the time. It's a given. The real question is, can you detect them? So let me back up a bit. There I was on the beach. I had this realization that I wanted to be a meditation teacher. But I felt like I needed to get my bank balance back in order. So I went back to London, and I got another chunky job in a big, boring company in the city. And it was not inspiring, but it was familiar. It was something I recognized, and it felt like the safe thing to do. So there I am in this job, and this is a case of what I call the ever-repeating known. And I would bet that many people in this room can relate to this dynamic. So it was a job description I was familiar with. I was pretty good with it. After a year, they offered me a place on the board and some shares and some more money, and they wanted me to help usher them through their listing on the FTSE. But it filled my heart with dread. There was zero charm. Zero. And so, I took a leap into the unknown, and I put all my stuff in storage, and I moved to Flagstaff in Arizona to train to be a teacher of Vedic meditation. And I settled into a one-room cabin designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, which was on the homestead. Just drop that in. Which was on the homestead of my meditation teacher. I meditated 6, 7, 8 hours every day. I transcribed hundreds of hours of recordings. I memorized Sanskrit. And every chance I got, I asked my teacher questions, whether we were hiking in the Grand Canyon or we're going to the hardware store. I was chief babysitter and bottle washer for his 4 kids. I didn't really see anybody else. I was like a monk. And 4 weeks into all of this, my then partner, who was back in London, announced that he didn't want to be with me anymore. So, after 14 months, I emerged and graduated as a teacher of Vedic meditation. And I was irrevocably changed. What did I have to do to experience that change, to make that change, to evolve that much? Well, I had to let go of who I had been in order to become who I was meant to be. And ultimately, I had to let go of the known and step into the unknown. Because following true charm will always involve stepping into the unknown. Always. The unknown is actually the safe place. It's the ever-repeating known that we need to be afraid of. And nature, because the ever-repeating known smacks of stagnation, and nature has a very direct way of dealing with stagnation. Just look at what happens when an animal is injured. You know, they're losing their forward momentum, they're starting to stumble, and next thing, they're kind of going around in circles. And then the vultures swoop in. Because the ever-repeating known always attracts the scavengers. If all our creative potential is being sucked into maintaining the status quo, then watch out. Once that status quo passes its use-by date, the destruction operators of nature begin to move in. And there's another part to this. Stepping into the unknown means we have to let go of control. We have to stop trying to control everything and everyone around us, because control is opposed to evolution. And it's exhausting. You know, trying to make everything and everyone go exactly how you think they should go, it just eats up life. It's like trying to stop the river from flowing. And I can see now that it was my meditation practice that facilitated my ability to let go of control and leap into this big life change. Because meditation is all about letting go. I'm going to meditate this afternoon. I have no idea what it's going to be like. It might be noisy and feel busy in my head, thoughtful. It might feel quiet and very profound. It might be a mix of both of those things. I don't know. Every time I close the eyes to meditate, I step into the unknown. Every meditation is different. I go into meditation without any expectation of outcome, without any anticipation of a result. I let nature take the lead. And it's worth talking about the mechanics of Vedic meditation because it's different than other techniques. In this technique, we're not into controlling the mind. We're not trying not to think. We're not trying to be mindful. We're not into trying, full stop. When you learn to meditate, you learn two things on the first day. There's no mucking around. You learn your mantra and you learn how to use it. Now that mantra is a very particular sound that's chosen for you by the teacher. We can determine what is the right vibratory quality for you. And when you think that mantra silently in your mind, it automatically starts to become fainter and softer and quieter. It has this inbuilt self-refining mechanism. So here's the mantra getting fainter and fainter and fainter. And the mind, as it becomes fainter, it becomes increasingly charming and fascinating for the mind. The mind just loves it. And so the mind follows it effortlessly. And so the mind is settling down and the mantra is settling down and the mind follows it. And I'm not doing anything. It's all happening automatically. It's as if the mantra is doing all the work. So mantra is getting quieter, quieter. The mind is in these super subtle states. And then the mantra does its last little trick and it disappears. And for a moment, the mind falls mute. We step beyond thoughts and we drop into that pure, inner, serene consciousness. undiluted by thinking. You minus your thoughts. So for 20 minutes, twice a day, we step beyond control, we step beyond the thinking, and we step into the unknown. The mind follows the charm of the mantra. We let go of any expectation of what will happen. We let go of control, and we let go of trying to make something happen. And when you do this every day, you get better at doing it outside of meditation. You get better and better at being able to detect what is worthy of your attention. You become more adept at tuning into your intuition and more confident in acting upon it. You become stable in that inner, restful, coherent state of being. And so meditation teaches you to let go of control and follow the charm. And through contact with being, we come out completely different. Rested, creative, clear, intelligent, healthier, happier, younger. It was 20 years ago that I graduated as a teacher and returned to London. And I started teaching people right away. And I met my partner, Michael, and he became a teacher as well. And in 2008, we formed London Meditation Centre and New York Meditation Centre. And now we've taught thousands and thousands of people around the world. We've taught on every continent, including Antarctica. And we have a daughter together, Loie. She turned 10 this week. A lot's happened in that time. And when I think, back to from the homestead in Arizona, but when I think about what meditation has given me, some things are obvious. I'm happier, I'm more relaxed, my health is better, I sleep better, I feel rested and clear. But I was doing an interview recently and I was asked, what's the biggest thing you've gotten from nearly 30 years of meditating? And I found myself saying, I trust myself. I trust my instinct. And when I get an idea, I do it. And this has changed everything. And that's what led me to be here on this stage today. So just one final bit that I want to leave you with some Vedic knowledge. In the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most ancient and important texts in the Vedic literature, there's a scene that beautifully illustrates this mode of decision-making. Arjuna is the greatest warrior of the age, and he's about to enter into battle. And this is the greatest war of all Indian epics. There are millions of soldiers on each side. Their swords are clashing, they're blowing horns, and Arjuna's charioteer takes him in to the middle of all of this, into the no man's land, so that he can survey the scene. But this is no ordinary driver. This is Lord Krishna, the divine incarnate, who has promised not to fight, but he's going to serve as Arjuna's wise and trusted counselor. And when Arjuna looks out to the other side, he sees his cousins bearing arms against him, ready to fight him. He sees his beloved grandfather there on the other side. He sees his martial arts teacher who taught him everything he knows about to fight him. And in a moment of clarity, he kind of throws down his bow and he cries out to the Lord, "How can I go to war against my friends and family? It is always a sin to kill. I pray to thee, tell me decisively, what should I do?" Lord Krishna spends the next 17 chapters answering this question from every possible angle. But it's early on in chapter 2 that he gives the essence of his advice. Yogastha kuru kamani. Yogastha kuru kamani. Established in being, perform action. Established in being, perform action. Find the stillness inside that you've cultivated through spiritual practice, and act. Don't think. Don't weigh up the options. Don't analyze it. Don't get a committee and start to discuss it. Simply perform action. And if this advice holds true in this most desperate of situations, when the stakes couldn't be higher, when the survival of a culture lies in the balance, then surely we can rely on the same advice for the important decisions in our own lives. Meditate. Be. Become established in being. And then do. Thank you.